Well, the ANC is holding its sixth-day NEC meeting, the first sitting since the start of this new administration. David Makhura started off, of course, by going to great lengths in explaining how they had to compare their options post the elections. But for more, let's welcome SABC News reporter Natasha Phiri, who is actually joining us live from Boksburg, where the ANC NEC is currently taking place. Natasha, a very good afternoon to you. So it was very interesting to see somebody we haven't seen in a while, Mr. David Makhura there alongside Phoebe Potgieter, trying to basically outline what led them to this position, particularly post the elections as well, in how they had to then make compromises in order for them to go into a collective of this GNU. They mentioned issues of factionalism that is causing them to have breakaway parties within the ANC, as well as political fragmentation, which is also causing instability within the party. But please take us through what has transpired on day 3 of the NEC meeting.
Well, thank you so much, Alicia. You've actually answered some of the questions or some of the talking points I was actually going to speak about. Of course, yes, the national dialogue topped discussions here at the third and last day of the ANC NEC. Remember, the Lekgotla will then take place tomorrow and then will conclude, on Tuesday. But of course, we saw the former president, Thabo Mbeki, here, and, some of the discussions, they actually spoke about some of the discussions around, the national dialogue, when it is likely to happen, perhaps this year, the modalities of the national dialogue, and who is actually invited to this national dialogue. Remember, the former president, Thabo Mbeki, had actually called for a national dialogue before, the elections, Alicia. But of course, moving to the briefing that we had of ANC NEC members and subcommittee members of political education, David Makhura and Phoebe Potgieter, I'm sorry for that, Gubule, also speaking to members of the media on the analysis members of the ANC NEC had about the electoral decline of the ANC at the polls. And like you've correctly cited there, the growth of these breakaway parties from the ANC was actually one factor. The fact that, there was a low voter turnout. If you'll remember, Alicia, about 58% of South Africans actually headed to the polls, in May 29, and these are just also cited as some of the problems that they encountered as the ANC when reflecting on the party. But it's quite interesting, the comments that actually came out of Phoebe's mouth, her basically saying that this is a do or die moment for the ANC. If the ANC does not adapt, Alicia, it will then perish. And if the ANC doesn't implement 3 key strategic, principles or areas like improving on governance, she was just basically saying that they need to build a professional public service. The state needs to respond to basic services and challenges that the people of South Africa and various communities actually face. The issue around the economy, which is a contentious one, and under this, you have issues of electricity that the people of South Africa are complaining about. In the city of Johannesburg, the surcharge issue is also a huge one. And of course, the issue of renewal, saying that if these, are not prioritized, then the ANC can actually forget about winning the 2026 local government elections, which, Alicia, is actually a stone throw away. You'll probably see political parties starting to campaign for the local government elections, which is crucial, next year. Zuko Kodlimpe also making very interesting comments around the current state of, the GNU. And we heard there Mr. Makhura saying and talking to us, members of the media, through the negotiations, what actually happened, the options that they actually had, that the GNU was not only the option on the table, they also spoke about a grand coalition, Alicia, a minority government, and also being in opposition. And Makhura saying that, the ANC was not desperate to actually be in power. And hence, he took us through the options of these 4 scenarios for the country. Of course, Zuko Kodlimpe there reiterating Phoebe's sentiments that if they don't get all these priorities right, then of course they can just kiss the 2026 local government elections away. But also he made very interesting comments, specifically with what we've been hearing around Helen Zille, the DA federal chair's comments about the ANC not being, in a GNU, but of course being in a coalition with the Democratic Alliance. And Zuko Kodlimpi basically saying that the GNU was a strategic, maneuver to turn around the setbacks, the electoral setbacks of the ANC into a strategic advantage. And, earlier on, I actually mentioned that I actually spoke to the ANC chair on the sidelines of the NEC. We had a short snippet of a video there, Mr. Natasha, and he had basically said that, listen, these comments by Helen Zille, she had an objective. And of course, David Makhura also lashing out at her, saying that the runs that she's making was as a result of her actually being, or the party, the DA, being outmaneuvered here by the ANC. So these are just some of the things that actually came out. They also said that they won't beg the DA. If the DA wants to walk, they can walk. So these are just some of the things that actually came out of the media briefing. And of course, the analysis that the ANC actually had to do in the reflection of it, dropping below the 50% mark, and also losing out on, its key provinces like Gauteng and like the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and saying that moving forward, Alicia, the party needs to then self-renew itself, revive the organization, revive its branches as well, if it really wants to win the 2026 local government elections.
Absolutely, Natasha. I mean, they were talking about fixing governance issues as well as implementing progressive policies there. But one has to wonder, I mean, the party has been in power for the past 30 years. So one has to wonder what practical plans will then be implemented in order to change as well as fix those government issues as well as crises that we're currently experiencing, particularly also looking at the fact that now they do not have the majority. They are working under the auspices of the GNU. But I want to ask you this, Natasha. Yesterday, the growing question was, has there been any developments in the resignation of the current Johannesburg mayor, Mr. Kabelo Gwamanda, as, of course, their arrangement with parties like Action SA?
Alicia, I'm not so sure if I got the last question right, but I believe you mentioned the fact of Action SA and the ANC working together with Action SA to actually remove the mayor, the current mayor, Kabelo Gwamanda. I remember a conversation that she actually had yesterday with Action SA leader Herman Mashaba, and of course he lamented the fact that the ANC in Gauteng is somewhat dragging its feet in removing Gwamanda. And of course I asked this question to the ANC's national interim spokesperson earlier on, Zuko Kodlimpi, and he had said that they won't be dictated to by other parties as to how they'll go about this process. But of course, it is an internal process. Remember, Herman Mashaba had told you, Alicia, yesterday that he plans on meeting the leadership of Gauteng tomorrow. I tried to doorstop Bangaza Lusufi, and of course, he then took us back for comments to Zuko Kodlimpi. But yesterday, Usamgelo Maseko had a conversation with the provincial secretary of the ANC, Mr. TK Nliza, and he had actually told members of the media that the initial agreement that, Kabelo Gwamanda would actually be the mayor of the city of Johannesburg was that he must be the caretaker mayor. So now in the negotiations, we understand that Dada Morero, who's the regional chairperson of the ANC in the city of Johannesburg, is being punted to actually take over as mayor. But remember, when you asked Alicia Herman Mashaba yesterday who his preferred candidate would be, he had said that they have no names, they won't be pushing for anybody, but it should be a person who will be prioritizing, service delivery and delivering services to the people of the city of Johannesburg. But also some of the conditions is that Action SA must take those two speaker positions in the city of Johannesburg and in the city of Tshwane. And remember, remove the 200 Rand extra electricity surcharge price that are now billed to prepaid customers in the city of Johannesburg. So these are just some of the conversations that we actually had on the sidelines of the last day of the ANC NEC. It would be interesting to know if the leadership of the ANC here in Gauteng will actually meet then with Mr. Mashaba tomorrow.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive update. Natasha Phiri, the SABC News reporter, live to us from Boksburg at the Birchwood Hotel, where the ANC is hosting day 3 of its 6-day NEC conference.